Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick and Jeff Lasseter. Visit us at ihatecritics.net. Everyone's a Critic podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. My handle is CriticsPod. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. We'll read your review on the air. We're on YouTube. Subscribe to the show there. Click on the little bell to get notified when our new episode goes up. Patreon.com/criticspod. The best way to help support the podcast. We have several bonus episodes, including a Friday the 13th commentary track that Jeff and Sean did. Sean and I have some music reviews on there as well, among other things. So patreon.com/criticspod. And if you want any of our podcast merch, go to tpublic.com and search for CriticsPod, or go to ihatecritics.net and click on the link in the upper right-hand corner. Sean, where can people read your reviews?
The archive blog is at seanatthemovies.blogspot.com, and of course horror.media and geeks.media. The latest piece in my book project, Horror in the 90s, is up. The Guardian, directed by William Friedkin. So that's just a serialized portion of the book, which is in the process.
And Jeff, where can people
William
get your
Friedkin.
Jeff, where can people get your art?
JeffLasseter.com is my website. I do have some stuff on TeePublic. I'm trying to kind of take my t-shirt designs and stuff to another company. But for now, they're still on TeePublic. I might just leave them there, but since they cut the revenue stream in half with that, with their shitty new categories, I'm not going to rely on them. So sorry, tangent. Speaking of William Friedkin, Sean, have you ever listened to one of his commentaries?
No, I don't think so.
Absolutely the fucking worst. It's just like he's describing it for blind people.
Oh man.
He doesn't give any insight unless somebody's interviewing him. Like I have the cruising disc and I'm writing something about cruising right now, and he starts off kind of okay, talking about some of the behind the scenes stuff, but then he gets bored at about a third of the way through. He just starts narrating the movie. And he did the same thing with The Exorcist. So the Cruising Blu-ray does have a really good interview commentary with him, where somebody's actually asking him questions and he's answering them, so he doesn't get to narrate it. But if I ever get my hands on a inexpensive copy of The French Connection, I loathe to listen to the commentary on it.
I can only imagine how incoherent it must be on The Guardian, considering how miserable that movie is.
All right. Are we ready to get into the new movies this week?
Sure.
All right. We'll start with the big one, The Blackening.
The Blackening stars directed by Tim Story, and starring a terrific cast of lesser-known actors, including the co-writer Dwayne Perkins, among others. Tells the story of a group of friends from college who are getting together for a 10-year reunion. They're going to drink and do drugs and play cards and just reminisce about the past. Obviously, at least one or two of them are coming with their own secrets. Like two of them are now getting back together as a couple after a long time. And they're coming to this place where two of their friends have rented this cabin in the woods. Yvonne Orji and Jay Farrow play the opening couple, and terrific opening set piece where they essentially play out a Scream style meta narrative about talking about Scream 2. It's tremendous. A lot of the action centers on this board game called The Blackening, which is a deeply problematic, deeply racist game that they're forced to play by this antagonist in a mask. A couple of guys in a mask, I guess. We'll find out later on. But there's a whole big narrative going on here that's both kind of refreshing in terms of how they play it, because these characters are so refreshing, but also a throwback to classic horror films about people who reunion horror. There have been a number of reunion horror movies where friends from the past get together, and obviously there's always that one outcast who comes back, and Jermaine Fowler plays that character here. And then it's also like a Cabin in the Woods movie, so it's got that going for it. So it's combined those two things and kind of freshened up both of them with these
Excuse
wonderful.
me, it's a house in the woods, not a cabin. It's a house.
Regardless, anyway.
They call that out at the beginning. So
the point is that this is a very funny, refreshing movie because these characters are naturally funny, and they just happen to be trapped in this horror movie situation, and that combination really works here. Tim Story really captures the tone of that incredibly well. Oftentimes when it comes to horror comedy, the horror either one of the horror or the comedy gets forced into the situation, and this isn't forced. These characters are just a naturally funny group of people who just have amazing chemistry together. They just work incredibly well. I especially have to shout out Ex Mayo as she steals every scene. She's got the funniest lines and the funniest delivery in the movie. She's phenomenal, and but they're all great. Everybody in this movie is terrific. I really, really enjoyed this a lot.
Jeff, did you see
yeah,
it?
same here. I did. I had heard one of my friends who's a big horror fan like me was, dinging it for, not enough people died, not enough people died first, and it's really telling that they thought it was a straight ahead horror movie because I never got that from it. I got that it was, about horror movies and about, the stupid things that people do in horror movies. But man, I laughed so hard throughout the entire thing. I did clock who the killer was, who was, responsible for everything really, really early. And I kept looking for that, that kind of to manifest itself throughout. Every performance though was just right on. Of course, Dwayne Perkins was my favorite because he's a homo too. No, he was just actually really funny, and he reminded me so much of some of my friends that I was like, wow, so spot on. They have kind of every not, I don't want to say stereotype, but it's like every character from black movies in the past is in this movie in a way. You've got the overachiever Lisa, who, the attorney, and you think is going to be the final girl, not knowing that everybody's kind of the final girl. Like Clifton, the Carlton of the group. I enjoyed almost every minute of this, even though I knew what was going on from about a third of the way in. I was pretty like, oh, okay. Ex Mayo, though, oh my god, she was so funny, and it just I don't. There wasn't a dull moment or a wrong note to me, because I didn't look at it as a horror movie. I looked at it as, a comedy about horror movies, and the black stereotypes in horror movies. And I mean, the tagline alone was "We can't all die first," which the first time I saw that, I just laughed out loud. But yeah, everybody was really good in it. It was totally worth seeing. Go run, don't walk.
There's that whole trailer sequence that you would think would be spoiled by the fact that it's in the trailer. It's about it's about the killer saying, I want you to decide who the blackest is, and that person's going to die. But it still hits. It still hits in the movie, and it's got even several more layers to it that are incredibly, incredibly funny and mean and terrific, and still, even though it's in the trailer, like when the guy says I voted for Trump twice, like it still gets a big laugh in the movie. It's still incredibly well delivered. But that aspect that you're talking about, Jeff, I think the reason that both of us would clock that is because it is a throwback to 80s horror, like reunion horror. Like there are several where somebody comes back from the past and shows up somewhere where you don't expect them to be, and they stand out like a sore thumb, and I think that's part of the joke. I think that's what they're going for, is that that element is supposed to be obvious and quite funny.
And when I heard that Tim Story was doing this, I know this is unpopular, especially with you guys. I really liked the original Fantastic Four movie. But when I heard he was doing this, and some of the stuff that he does, I was just like, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. So,
Yeah, the original Barbershop is really good.
oh yeah,
The,
that
the
too.
sequels get a little bit iffy, but in terms of quality. But yeah, the original has got a great sense of humor, and he's great with he's great with characters and letting actors have their room to work. He especially does that here, letting these actors really bring a lot to this movie in terms of their mannerisms and their sense of humor, taking advantage of each of them. I was really loving it. Grace Byers too as Allison. That bit about her taking Adderall is such an insanely great joke.
I wish Adderall did that to me.
How was the theater? Was it packed, or were you guys the only ones in it? Or
I had a pretty good crowd when I was there.
When did you see it, Sean?
I saw it Saturday
Evening or morning or?
morning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw it Sunday morning. Well, right at noon, and I had about 10 other people in the theater with me. I had one old man who would not stop, like, getting on his phone. So finally, I really loudly said, "Get off your goddamn phone!" And he left the theater. Yeah, I got a couple fist bumps on the way out after that. But everybody was like really into it except for that guy.
Yeah.
He was the only guy who wasn't paying attention. So, but everybody was laughing. The couple that was next to me or close to me at the end, they were talking about, I'm like, did you guys figure out who it was? She's like, he did. But I didn't do it. I didn't. He just told me, he's like, I figured it out. And I was like, okay, yeah, okay. And I said it was like a classic horror movie trope, the outsider who nobody really knows. It was like very Terror Train or April Fool's Day. It had that kind of a vibe where, they're all friends, but they've drifted apart a little bit. So, yeah, well worth seeing it.
Very clever movie, very funny movie. Still strong elements of horror. The choice to use a crossbow as the main thing was very clever. And there's even a joke with the crossbow gets a running gag, which is phenomenal. This movie is just so smart.
so is it more in the vein of like it's not really a parody then, it sounds like. It's more like in the Happy Death Day kind of.
I don't think it's a parody. I think they made a horror movie and let these characters be funny in it. I think they took well-known horror tropes and they used those, but they made a horror movie that is essentially grounded within that genre, and then these people come in and they're just very funny in that space.
Was it the best movie of the weekend?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty. Well, spoiler alert, I think they're pretty even for me for reasons.
Yeah. I wanted to see it, but I only had room to get in one movie, and I figured I'd have to go to. We should probably do The Flash since it's a pretty big movie this weekend. Or at least it was supposed to be. Anything else on the Blackening before going to the Flash?
I'm sad it didn't do better. Only $6 million at the box office over the weekend. Again, when you're listening to this and you haven't seen this movie, go see this movie. It's absolutely a must see.
All right, The Flash.
The Flash is directed by Andy Muschietti, who directed the It movies, and it stars Ezra Miller, which you've got to get that out of the way first, and the fact that Ezra Miller is likely a pretty severe criminal. Like he's potentially a cult leader. Like there's a lot of things. He's a potential kidnapper. He was suspected of murder. A lot of shit. just a lot of shit that you have to wade through to try and get to this movie and try desperately to be, I guess, objective if you can, which I guess I've tried because I did like this movie. The Flash tells the story of the Flash, trying to go back in time and see his parents again, and specifically trying to save the life of his mother. And he chooses to do so by going back in time to kind of prevent, I guess, his father from not being there when his mom is murdered. There's a lot of problematic elements, a lot of vagary in terms of the how they handle the timeline and why he does certain things that he does. But the bottom line is he goes back and he saves his mom. But in doing so, he changes the future to the point where there are no metahumans, and Batman's a different guy. Is he in an alternate universe? Is this a new timeline? There's a whole mess going on that, again, the movie is kind of vague about to try and make it work, because they're not necessarily wanting to do a multiverse thing, but they also are kind of forced into a multiverse thing. It's very unusual, but that doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is that Maribel Verdú, who plays his mother in the movie, is so incredible. Like, from moment one, she is such a great mom character, and she's so good that it deepens the tragedy of her having been killed, and the desire that he has to go back and save her is underpinned by just how incredible she is, and also the other tragedy in his life that his father was accused of and jailed for that murder and has been jailed for that, and so it's kind of affected his entire life, and the opportunity to try and change that is something that the movie really does well to underline as an important tragedy that is worth trying to fix. But obviously, once he does it, it sets the whole thing, the whole horrible thing in motion. The return to the present and finding that everything has changed. He doesn't quite come back to the present, I guess, but it's close to the present. And the reintroduction of Michael Keaton's Batman. The reintroduction is weird. I didn't quite follow why they would have him come back the way they did. I guess I don't know how spoilery we want to get, but Keaton's character has essentially gone feral since
I think we should. We got to get into spoilers because it's kind of the only way to talk about it. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, then just
you had your chance to see The Flash this weekend. You didn't go see it, so we're going to talk about it anyway.
So fuck you.
Pretty much.
So, I didn't buy the idea that he would go feral based off of his Alfred not being there anymore. But once he gets cleaned up and he's in the bat suit again, I honestly got choked up. I got emotional about it. It took me back to being a child. It really did, and I just got so excited. And I mean, Keaton hits every beat perfectly. He's the best thing in this movie, other than Maribel Verdú. He's just so fantastic, and everything that he does worked for me. I just could not get enough of him. The other aspect that I did like is that this Ezra Miller's dual performance is well handled. The younger version of himself that is about to become the Flash or becomes the Flash in front of him is very funny, I guess. Like I said, it's Ezra Miller, so it's kind of hard to praise anything that he does, but it worked for me.
Can I stop you there for a second? Because what I did, what worked for me was the fact that the new dimension or whatever, Ezra Miller, almost was like, it was like having the Justice League Ezra Miller and then the popular Ezra Miller kind of meeting each other and him going crazy. So I kind of worked that into the movie. Maybe that's disrespectful considering what he's accused of is pretty serious, right? But it still worked for me on that level.
The thing about Ezra Miller is they're so talented that watching this movie, I was really pissed off what they did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As far as like ruining so many people's lives and ruining what was going to be a really good career.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So they can fuck off, but they're also very talented.
Indeed. I mean, that comes through in this movie, which again, I think is quite good. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I wanted to interject that because it was like we're just talking about how he had gone off the deep end and started.
Yeah, somebody
being
else
creative.
jump in because I'm going to go sneeze some more.
Well, that's fine. I mean, it's really would have been a star-making performance, because the Justice League, they had a role that stole a bunch of scenes, but this was, the first step to being a movie star, and I think it's the last thing that they're probably going to be able to do, especially on this level. It's really a shame because it really was a hell of a performance.
Yeah, so all the time travel and the multiverse is, I'm assuming, is what they were kind of going for without calling it out as the multiverse.
Right.
I thought if they wanted to keep making Flash movies in the new DC timeline, whatever, that was when they could have really just inserted a new Flash.
Right.
And they didn't. So I was like, that kind of, okay, I guess they're not going to go forward with any of the Flash stuff in the new DCEU. And I really, when they were going through at the end and they were seeing all the cameos, I really, really, really was crossing my fingers for Catwoman by Michelle Pfeiffer. The best Catwoman.
I agree, but at the same time, I was kind of annoyed by all the cameos. Like, it kind of took me out a little bit. It was almost too cute. The Nicolas Cage one, which, again, we're talking spoilers, knew it was there. The fact that he fought a big spider was just like, they just put a deep Kevin Smith cut in here from his story.
I had no idea he was in it.
I loved that.
That was one of my favorite parts of the movie. My jaw was like on the floor. I was like, holy shit, is that that's the Nicolas Cage Superman? Oh my god.
I loved that. I wish, but they kind of went overboard with too many people. I did nothing against Christopher Reeves, but it didn't add anything, or even the older Superman. I don't think it really added to anything. It was just more like, let's get as much nostalgia into this little montage as we can. And
though that's the kind of fan service I like. When you have the chance to put a cameo in, great, but not build the whole narrative around that.
Right.
I'm not talking about Michael Keaton's Batman because that worked perfectly and he is the best Batman. But I really, really thought at the end when, Bruce Wayne drives up, I thought it was going to be Michael Keaton again. I had no idea it was going to be George Clooney. I about fucking died.
I wish
I could not believe they.
I wish I didn't know.
I can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
Because that would have been hilarious.
That was a great idea. Really, and really well executed too. I really did enjoy that. Just so clever. And it's a shame though, of course, because of the Snyderverse and because of Ezra Miller and this lack of box office that it had this weekend. We're never going to see any of this again. It's over. I guess we're going to get something probably in the Aquaman sequel, but that's it. That's the Snyderverse done. And I'm not Zack Snyder's biggest fan. I've got a problem with pretty much anything he's done outside of the DC universe. But I mean, I'm on the record on this show liking what he did in the DC universe. We talked very much about Batman versus Superman being not that bad. I'm not a huge fan of his take on Superman, but I didn't mind it. I liked the Justice League extended cut. I thought that 4-hour cut was really entertaining. This isn't obviously he's not directing this, but these are characters that he's kind of put into this universe, and he's kind of the overseer of this universe that includes Aquaman and Flash. And from that perspective, those characters have been very entertaining. And I don't want to say it's a shame, but like part of me kind of wishes he would have gotten a little more time to do a little bit more with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they screwed it up so early on that it just, I don't know, pulling them off of the Justice League movie. I don't know. They messed it up.
I just really think that, like Sean said, there wasn't enough time to cook. There were so many with DC versus Marvel. DC, any little mistake they made, oh my god, it's the end of the DCEU. Oh my god, Wonder Woman 84 killed the entire DC. No, it didn't. It was just, it was like an Iron Man 2 where it gets, a little better later, but not much. But it's sad to me because I really was starting to get into it. I didn't actually see Black Adam, but that's just because that came out right after they said, "Oh, we're just scrapping all this stuff anyway."
Right.
So I was like, "Well, what's the point?"
Right.
I hate to say how much I like Ezra Miller as as a performer, but I really always have. And it's sad to me that they turned out the way they did because I would have loved to have continued to support them, but can't.
But unlike Marvel, I mean, Kevin Feige got to control all of it. He was kind of the main guy, and you bring directors in.
Yeah.
All you had was studio involvement the entire time. Zack Snyder really never got to be the main guy. Even though they try to use him as that. And it just shows you why the studio heads to stay out of creative, because that's why it doesn't work. And
yeah, what WB Discovery has done to this whole thing is just, I mean, James Gunn, I believe he'll do fine, but their intervention here, when you look at the whole Batgirl situation, it's just this whole mercenary profit thing, and not necessarily about making good movies that people want to see. And that's I know it's a business. I know we have to accept that it's a business, especially when it comes to multi-billion-dollar franchises. But Snyder was creating something pretty good with his universe, and he was seemingly making money doing it. I don't understand some of the decisions that were made around that to continuously undermine that idea. I don't quite understand why you would want to take his legs out from under him while he's making good movies that are seemingly making money. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, even the Ben Affleck Batman thing, I mean, you could tell he wasn't happy with the way things were going. He's like, you know what, I'm done. And I don't know. The whole thing it's a shame, because I'm more of if I'm going to be a comic book fan, it would be, I'm more to the mainstream stuff, the Superman, Batman kind of. So I would be more apt to follow the DC than I am Marvel. But they just, even with the James Gunn, it's like, take a break. I don't need it right now. It's a little too much, and now we got to start over right away. Plus, we got this Batman and Joker thing off to the side. Are they related? They're probably, I don't know. There's just too many random weird things going on for me to really care. But
the thing about Marvel that is so smart is they have had a plan from the beginning. They didn't make a movie and then decide to build around it. They had the event, they were leading up to the Avengers from the first seconds of Iron Man. It was like, let's sit down and plan this. And then they get a plan going, and then DC just tells everybody what the plan is before they even start making movies.
Right.
And so you're looking forward to something, and it doesn't come off quite right. Well, then all of a sudden, we're just going to shift course right away, immediately.
Right.
And that's what led up to this whole, you know what, screw it. We're just going to reboot the entire thing. None of this means anything. And you could, in theory, have reset everything with the Flash movie. The fact that he's going between worlds and there's, a multiverse in the DCEU, you could have recast Superman, you could have recast Batman, and I would have loved to have seen something where all the Batmen come together, including Robert Pattinson's Batman, and they were all like that scene in Avengers where all the female superheroes have that one shot together.
Yeah.
I would kill for that scene with all the different Batmen. I just what you have all this IP that you're not using because Wonder Woman 84 didn't do as well, or Black Adam wasn't great, and they have to have been thinking about ditching the entire thing for a few years.
Well,
I mean,
go ahead.
It's DC tradition, isn't it? Like the New 52, like take your entire universe and blow it up and start again. Like they've done that a couple of times in comic books. Not that I'm a comic book guy or anything, but I'm aware that they've blown up universes entirely and started whole new lines because you can just do that in comic books, and so that is kind of a tradition. But when it comes to Marvel versus DC, it's like the auteur theory, because it's Kevin Feige right at the top. You've got one guy who has the vision for the whole thing, and he assigns each particular vision to a very good director to execute it and to execute what he has planned. But it is a collaborative thing. But you have one guy right there who is stewarding that whole thing, who's captaining that ship. And DC never had that. They wanted Snyder. It seemed like Snyder was going to be that guy, and then they took it away from him. And they've never had that one guy who's just like, okay, I'm in charge, and this is what we're doing.
Well,
yeah,
and that guy shouldn't be the director either. It shouldn't have been Snyder. It shouldn't be James Gunn. It should be someone like a Kevin Feige to just kind of keep them on course. And even that's not perfect. We talked about with Guardians how they kind of ruined some of those characters doing it the way they're doing it. But it still worked. I mean, it worked enough. But yeah, they're just. I guess it's like Star Wars when Lucas was in charge of it. It's one thing, but as soon as the studio takes over, it turns into a whole different thing.
The thing that always struck me is Marvel never had aside from Spider-Man, never had the standout characters. They were always teams, and it was always smaller comics that came together to be a team.
Right.
Whereas with the DC comics, they have the strongest leads: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern. Even their second tier ones like Green Lantern and the Flash are still names.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas nobody until the movie Iron Man came out, Iron Man was third tier at that point.
Yeah,
right.
Everything was Spider-Man and Spider-Man, and because Marvel didn't have the rights to Spider-Man, technically at that point at all, they had to what do we have the rights to? And we have Iron Man. Well, let's do something with Iron Man. And that was what Bob said is the theory that you get somebody who has an overarching kind of vision, but they hire the right people at the right time. And instead of dumping all of this stuff on the back of, Zack Snyder and everything has to go through him, he's a director. He's not Kevin Feige. Give him the big tentpole movies, the Batman versus Superman or the Justice League, give him those. But when they had Patty Jenkins directing Wonder Woman, I was like, oh, good. She's a really good director.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what kind of set the original Wonder Woman apart, was they picked the right person at the right time for the right project. And I don't see them, paying enough attention to that in the other movies. Andy Muschietti is fine, but he's not always consistent.
Oh yeah, he's deeply indulgent as the second It movie demonstrates.
It 1, It 2, great.
Deeply indulgent.
Yeah, it was I rewatched them the other day because I don't know, I wanted to see something different that I hadn't watched in a while. And I was like, wow, this is, aside from a few moments in it too,
it was awful.
It's really not good.
Well, let's not forget. Or go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to shift course. So if you have anything within,
okay.
Well, just
no.
They also ruined some of these releases by having it come out on HBO Max the same weekend.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
that's where a lot of the money loss comes from. And they've already changed HBO Max, so it's sometimes you just need to trust yourself and let it. That
Zaslav guy can go fuck himself.
Yeah.
you brought that up, and that kind of. So I don't know if you saw the thing that was going around this weekend. They're already, before the movies are out, they're announcing when they're going to be streaming on Max or on Peacock or what. And I'm just like, you really don't want people to go to the theaters anymore, do you? Because, I mean, it's like 3 weeks from now, I think Flash is coming out on streaming.
Really?
That's idiotic.
I tried to explain to my niece yesterday that I said, "Oh, are you going to go see The Flash?" She goes, "Oh, I think so. Maybe it's really good, but it'll probably be streaming pretty soon, right?" And I explained the Jurassic Park thing that we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
It was a year and a half before it came out on VHS, and she could not believe it. She's like, "How do they get away with that?" I was like, "It built up." I mean, first of all, the movies were in the theater a lot longer. I mean, Jurassic Park was probably in the movie theater for a good 6 to 8 months through the holidays, and was doing business. But now there's so many different streamers and ways to watch the movie, and I know COVID really put a big knife in the side of theaters. But you go to a Marvel movie on a Thursday night, and it's just filled with people.
It is. Mm-hmm.
And that's how that's those kind of movies, the ones that fill the seats on the weekends, are the ones that make room for stuff like smaller artsy movies like Beau is Afraid or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hate to see that go away just because these idiots who are running these studios just think they want to get everything streaming.
Well, part of the problem with that, not to defend the studios, but the idiots that have those that are stealing the movies. Once they hit the theaters, It's easy to get copies and get them online. And I know way too many people who pay $20 a month for everything you can get and watching bootlegs and this and that. And I mean, probably more people I know than not do that. And I just don't get that. And they don't realize they're killing everything. But that's why they have to release it to streaming sooner. They can't sit and wait because it'll come out for free anyway. So they need to get their money from whatever company is willing to stream it. I don't know. The whole thing sucks, and I don't really know how how theaters survive all this, other than movies like I really don't know. The whole thing's kind of frustrating, and hopefully it turns around. That said, I have been having a hard time finding two or three seats by themselves. The last few times I've tried to go to the movies with my family, except for The Flash, I had no problem. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, if I wanted to go, I could get. And I was just shocked by that, because that's my biggest problem with this movie is somebody, I don't know who it was, associated with DC or Warner Brothers, said this is the best superhero movie ever.
James Gunn.
James Gunn said that?
Yeah.
That was idiotic. Because it's not. Not to mention there's a million multiverse movies right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not even the best multiverse. I mean, the Spider-Man's way better than this, I think. And so it just had those two things going against it right away. And in the end, it was good. I liked it. It was fun. I wish I did know certain things going, but I liked it overall. But it did leave me disappointed because I was expecting to be blown away, and I wasn't completely blown away. It was just another movie.
It's very good. I gave it 3.5 out of 5, on Letterboxd. I think it's quite good, and I think it would have been a nice base to build off of for more movies like it. Unfortunately, that's never going to happen. I think one of my problems with the time travel aspect was that I needed to know why he wouldn't just go back to the moment his mother was murdered and stop it there. And I thought to myself, well, that would be something that they could do in a sequel, and they're probably setting up for him, having this doubt or having this question about whether or not his father did murder his mother, that would be something that they would tackle in the sequel. And so that kind of so that was in my head, and that kind of, made sense to me. And unfortunately, obviously we're not going to see any sequels for this now, so we'll never know. But I do think some of the time travel stuff was a little bit vague, specifically so that they could get away with a few of these things that they want to do. Whether, trying to keep it, is it a linear universe? Is it a multiverse? Is it just every possibility that exists all at once? There's a lot of softness to their to the timeline of how they want that to work, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it being soft like that. But I did have a lot of strings I felt like I could pull on if I wanted to.
I did like how each multiverse was represented by one of those big spinning balls, and the color of it kind of told you who was the
right.
Who was the main person in that one. And then, when they got to the gray one, it was all the old time serial stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something. This would have been the perfect movie to build, like you said, to build the DCEU on, because you could bring anybody back that was willing to do it at any time. You could get new people. You could get a new Wonder Woman. You could get a new Superman. You could, again, oh my God, just seeing all the Batman. I just like, my nipples are hard thinking about it. I want to see a movie where Michelle Pfeiffer and Eartha Kitt, I guess she'd be CGI, but where they're Catwomen, and I guess we also, speaking of like that scene, we also have to talk about CGI.
Yeah,
because
I heard people
apparently
that.
It was on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, Jan. I heard that. I was like, you know what? They tried that shit with the new Fantastic Four, or the Four Stick movie a few years ago. Oh no, it's supposed to look that. No, it's not. Come on. In a world of Avatar, you're telling me that they all look like statues on purpose? But I mean, I think that they had to make all the people in the, whatever they called it, I forget, where it's spinning around and, all falling in on itself. Mm-hmm. I think they had to make all of those people look like statues so that it didn't look so jarring when Nicolas Cage's sex doll showed up later with his smooth vinyl skin.
And was that a fully CGI creation, or did Cage shoot anything?
No, all of those apparently were all fully CGI.
I mean, it looked just like the promo shots they did with Nicolas Cage, like a CGI version of that.
I died though when I saw that giant spider. That was so fantastic.
But like 15% of the audience got it.
Sure.
I mean, I'm glad they did it, but I did laugh at that because I did not know that was going to happen. But still, it was just, I don't know. I mean, the stuff that you were complaining about, Sean, the pulling the strings out, I didn't have a problem so much with the way they were. I don't think it was a linear, because he clearly gets knocked out of the timeline by himself. You don't know it's himself to the end. And even Ben Affleck's Batman is explaining to him why you got to be very careful. You can't change anything. Don't go backwards. And so I get why he wouldn't go back to the murder, and why he'd try to do something more casual, like whisper something about a can of tomatoes. I bought into all that, even though it's convenient the way they went about it. Just they said one thing so that they could tell their story and keep their science-based time travel, or whatever you want to call it. But I at least bought into that. But I don't know. Overall, I would say it's good, but I didn't. The George Clooney thing at the end, if it was Christian Bale, I don't think it's as good. Obviously Val Kilmer would be a mistake, but I just...
Pattinson would have been good.
Would have been fine, but it's not as funny unless it's Clooney.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and this movie was... It had to be comedic throughout. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
You have to watch it kind of tongue in cheek and with a little wink and a nod to the fact that they're bringing back all this, the Keaton verse and all that. Right. And if it had been anybody else but George Clooney, it would not. I shit you not. I went, oh my God, that is the best thing I've ever seen. and the guy behind me was like, "Yeah." So, you know, if it had been Pattinson, everybody would have been like, "Oh, wait, are we doing this now?" You know what I mean?
Right. And Bale would have
So-
been cool, I guess, but it's still, you need the laugh, and I think that's why Clooney's the best choice. Anything? I mean, I guess also why Michael Keaton was feral was so they could put another guy in a wig and you could hide it easier. It would be the only thing I can think of why they made that choice.
Yeah, maybe. I just didn't buy that, but that's fine. Like I said, once he's cleaned up and he's Batman again, he's the man. Like I got emotional. Seeing.
Yeah. I wasn't bothered at all with the fact that they hadn't touched his equipment in 20 some odd years and it still worked just fine.
Yeah.
That didn't bother me even in the least, even though I think in the lesser movie it would have.
You know, Sean, he's talking about getting emotional. This really was an emotional movie, even though it was, kind of lighthearted and kind of tongue in cheek. You know, the scenes where he's saying goodbye to his mom. I mean, come on.
Oh, that was a great scene.
Wow.
Just like I believed every second of that. As someone who has lost their mother and wishes they could have that, absolutely every second. And she is so good.
Oh,
I mean, I
she's
think
amazing, and her charisma in just a few scenes is just off the charts.
Yeah. I mean, one of my friends was like, "Wait a minute, is that the lady from E2 Mama Tambien?" I'm like, "It sure is." Oh my God, I just watched that movie. That's amazing. So I have a feeling that she's going to have a kind of an American resurgence here.
That'd be nice.
Well, and the fact that, he had to kill her to end this movie, to
let her die, let her go.
That's a great plot point, and and even the courtroom scene with Ron Livingston at the end, nowhere near as good acting, but it was still an emotional scene. He's fine playing Ron Livingston. But yeah, it's.
I still want to know who killed his mom.
He did.
Right?
Isn't that what happens in the comics? Isn't it Reverse Flash or something like that? I have no idea.
Could be.
That's what my son was telling me.
But then again, like I said that before, that's probably what they were going to do in a sequel, hence why he wouldn't go back to that specific moment.
Right.
Yeah. It's Jack Nicholson.
It was Jared Leto's Joker.
No, thank you.
Anything else on the Flash?
No, but incidentally, if you put Jerry Seinfeld's face over Jared Leto's in that, it still works.
It will be streaming in 3 weeks if you want to see it. Our classic this week is the 1989 Batman.
And what else is there to say about this? It just still holds up. It's still incredible. It's a memory from my childhood I'll never forget. I was 13 years old, walking into the theater in Davenport that is no longer there, trying to walk in, but there's this sea of humanity that is pressed out the doors and around the corner. You're going to be standing there for an hour, 2 hours to get to your seat, to get to a screening that isn't completely sold out. I mean, it's a memory I will never forget. And, the perseverance of my mother willing to be there and stand in that line and get those tickets and sit in that audience in something she had absolutely no interest in, truly is another memory that it's another thing that makes that so incredibly special. But at the time when we're talking about Michael Keaton, we're talking about Beetlejuice, and this is not the guy that anybody thought was going to be Batman. And then he steps into Batman and absolutely smashes it. He's just phenomenal on both sides of the aisle, of both sides of Bruce Wayne and of Batman. Because he's not the most physical guy. He's not the biggest guy. He's just what he has is that thing behind the eyes that shows you that he could be smart enough to strategize his way around situations where he would need to be physically stronger than anybody else. And that level of it reminded me, I'll make this comparison often, but I think it's a good one. It reminds me of professional wrestlers who can make, like a guy who can make a bigger guy who can make a little guy, make you believe that a little guy is beating him up. Like there's this character Rey Mysterio in professional wrestling, Jeff, who is 5 feet nothing, 190 pounds, but he's been Jake
Gyllenhaal?
No, he's been a world heavyweight champion. And you believe it when he fights bigger guys because the other guys are so good at making him look good. And Batman, you need to be able to put over the idea that this guy is strong enough to take other guys down in a physical situation. And it has to be about strategy. It has to be about quickness. It has to be about, his ability to see the next move before it happens. And that's kind of what they do with Rey Mysterio in wrestling. But that idea of getting him over that way, it's all about how good Keaton is in making you believe that. He makes you believe that.
He really does. Yeah, he's just... I remember I was old enough to have seen this, to have driven myself and my friend to see this on opening night. Like you said, Sean, the mass of humanity in that theater. And I was like 5 people behind, just praying that we were going to be able to get tickets because, hey kids, you couldn't buy tickets online or pick your seats. Mm-hmm. It turns out that they had multiple screens for this movie because the hype was unimaginable. This was before the internet. This was, I distinctly remember them. I don't even know if it was in newspapers or magazines or what, talking about Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom as Batman? What? Mm-hmm. And everybody thought, oh, this is going to be a bad idea. But I'll tell you what, Tim Burton knows what the fuck he was doing because he is my favorite Batman. Not necessarily my favorite Bruce Wayne, but he's definitely my favorite Batman. Just seeing it again this weekend, normally I can put on a movie and I can half pay attention to it, especially if I've seen it a few times. Mm-hmm. But this is one of those ones where I can never not just pay attention to the movie. And that's mostly due to the performances between Keaton and Nicholson.
Right. Yeah, you put it on to, just for it to be in the background, and the next thing you know, you're fully engrossed in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the soundtrack is amazing. The whole Prince soundtrack was... Yep. I mean... Danny Elfman, I think that was his first big blockbuster. Yeah. It's just everything about this movie is iconic, and I don't understand why anybody is like, oh no, my favorite Batman is, Adam West. I mean, he's fine, but come on.
Yeah,
he's no Keaton.
Yeah, hearing Elfman's score too in The Flash,
yes.
for a few moments, was so awesome.
This was the first movie I ever saw in the theater. I don't really remember it other than my friend's mom took me and my friend to see it. And I mean, because I was like 9 or something like that when it came out. But I don't know. It never gets old. I think everybody still quotes it to this day, to the point where they had Michael Keaton re-quoting it in The Flash.
Want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
And I don't know, I can't separate nostalgia and quality. It is from our era. It's one of the tent poles. I think it's good. I think it's just fun to watch. It's good. I don't know. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Nicholson's Joker is so iconic. It's very Nicholson in terms of the performance, but even with that, he takes this iconic Joker character and turns it into Jack Nicholson essentially, and he forces everybody to try and have to be very, very different from him in order to try and stand out. You have to not be Nicholson, which is what makes Heath Ledger so incredible in his performance, is that He doesn't try to do anything that Nicholson did, and still makes his own, version that is I think, even more iconic in terms of that character.
Right.
He doesn't necessarily top Nicholson. He just does it differently and perhaps, in my mind, better than Nicholson does, just because Nicholson is so grounded in Nicholson. But he's such an essential part of why this is so good. He's so entertaining. He's so charismatic. He's so funny. Everything that he does is, it's got that touch of madness that only Jack Nicholson can bring. The gleefulness, the way that gleeful madness that he brings to it is just the energy in like the party man scene where he's just dancing around like ridiculously. It's so awesome, and to the point where it's like kind of scary. Like he's having such a good time being such a villain. It actually gets kind of scary at times, and I really loved that, especially when I was a kid, being a little bit afraid of just how nuts this guy really is. He forces Keaton's game up. Keaton is forcing him up. Everybody is just, topping themselves. I could do without Robert Wuhl, but other than that, this is a perfect movie.
I had to look up to see if he was still alive.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even look to see if he'd done anything because he just was.
He's my least favorite part. He's just playing such a 40s detective, and that, even though he's a reporter, he's playing this 40s detective, and nothing about his performance really sits well with me, but he's the only part that I don't like. I like Kim Basinger. I thought Kim Basinger was pretty great. I think she holds her own. As much as this is a damsel in distress character, in the end, she does have a little bit of agency here and there. She does show herself a little bit, and they let her be talented and smart on top of being beautiful.
Well, and back to Nicholson. I mean, he has such an amazing career, even going into this. But I mean, this is probably one of the top 3 movies people know him from, if not the number 1. And despite how many, The Shining and One for the Cuckoo's Nest and everything else he's done, this is probably his most popular.
I would say so. It's interesting you mentioned that too, because there's an entire generation, to multiple generations, that only know him as the Joker, and those kids get to grow up and go find Nicholson other places and have those experiences that we got to have, seeing The Shining for the first time, or seeing Cuckoo's Nest for the first time, or The Last Detail. Young generations of film fans, this is Batman is like the gateway to this amazing Nicholson universe.
Well, I mean, granted, I was 9, but I knew him as Joker for the longest time. It wasn't even.
We need to do The Last Detail, by the way, as a classic sometime.
Put it on the list. You got You got the thing going, don't you?
Yeah.
I haven't done my part. Sorry.
Nobody has.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Someday.
I started writing some stuff down.
That's good.
But then, even as the only comics I've ever read have been Batman, and I haven't read that many of them, but even finding the little Easter eggs within Batman, the stuff that they talk about that appear in different Batman stories, I thought was pretty cool. That they, in that museum room he has, which they recreated in The Flash, which is awesome. How those are all different stories within the Batman world, which I thought was really cool.
That's actually one of my. It's a little thing, but it's one of my favorite scenes of Keaton as Bruce Wayne. Is his introduction to Vicky Vale when she's sneaking around his house with Robert Wuhl, and he catches her, and he's so charming in that scene, and that's the proof of him being able to be Bruce Wayne is that scene. I really love that.
Well,
I wonder where he got it. Oh, I picked it up in Japan. Just a casual,
Yeah. I was just thinking how, as a kid, my version, because I wasn't a comic book guy, but I liked comic book characters and comic book cartoon characters, and my Beatles versus Elvis was Batman or Spider-Man, and for me, my Beatles was always Spider-Man until the Batman movie came out, and I didn't have a Spider-Man movie to go with, so Batman became sort of the Beatles to the Spider-Man Elvis at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like my son's generation, a lot of it's Spider-Man. That's his Beatles right now, and he's had both. And I think a lot of his friends and quite frankly, I think the Spider-Man movie has been better than the most recent Batman movies.
I think they're on par.
They're on par, but I think they're slightly I think the multiverse with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, I thought that was phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I thought that was fantastic. I liked Affleck's Batman. I think that could have been a really.
I loved Affleck's Batman, but they fucked it up.
Yeah, but Pattinson's Batman is fucking awesome. I loved that movie. I thought that was terrific. Do I like it more than I like Spider-Man? I think they're on, like I said, they're on par for me. Like the Batman and the Spider-Man, the most recent Spider-Man, I think they're kind of on the same level for me.
Well, I don't disagree, but I do think the Batman's almost more of a grown-up movie than the Spider-Man movies are. And I mean, the Joker obviously is completely grown up.
I think having a consistent actor in the role of Spider-Man helps. Like Batman has had. It's like a football team that has a different coach every few years. Like you can't find the consistency in the offense. Whereas having Tom Holland be so consistent as Spider-Man for the past half a decade or so has definitely helped Spider-Man. I think surpass perhaps Batman.
Right, and I mean we're far enough away from the Christian Bale Batman too. Mm-hmm. But I mean, literally, there's at least two Batmans right now. I mean, if you want to still include Affleck as Batman,
Clooney's Batman now.
That's true.
Would you guys want to see a
Clooney?
I would. Give him another chance. Come on.
No, I'm good. It works in small doses.
Nipples out again.
Works in small doses.
Schwarzenegger's still around. We can get Mr. Freeze back. We'll do it all over again.
Uma Thurman. I mean,
but good this time.
Bring Chris O'Donnell back. Resurrect his
what's
career.
he doing?
He's on one of the NCISs, isn't he?
Oh, he actually has a career? My bad.
Oh, yeah. No, Alicia Silverstone, though, no.
Oh, I'm okay with that. Anything else on Batman?
Not really. It's just it's iconic,
He dies in the Flash. Multiple times, actually. Last Action Hero.
Last Action Hero, directed by John McTiernan and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, is a movie that's more interesting behind the scenes than it is as a movie. This began life as a Zach Penn, Adam Left script that everybody loved that was essentially a parody of Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger said, well, yeah, I'll be in the movie. And they had to change it to be a parody of Mel Gibson action movies. And so that's how we end up with this bizarre mishmash of way too many cooks in the kitchen, creating a movie that doesn't quite work. It is a fantastic premise. A kid played by Austin O'Brien gets a magical movie ticket that comes to life and sends him into his favorite movie series, the Jack Slater movies, where Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Jack Slater. But in this universe, obviously, Jack Slater's a real person who's in the midst of this, action adventure movie. It's a great idea. I just don't think they execute it well because too many people got involved and made changes. And then you've got this whole behind the scenes mess where this producer named Mark Canton demanded that they be done and ready to go by a June 17th date that was a week after Jurassic Park, and just doomed the movie. It had absolutely no hope. They finished the final cut of The Last Action Hero 2 weeks before they premiered it, which is absolutely insane. They premiered it in Hollywood on the same weekend that Jurassic Park was breaking box office records everywhere. And when you watch the footage of the premiere, you can see the doom in everybody's eyes. They just know that they're cooked. And it is comical to watch. The behind the scenes stuff is way, way better than this actual movie. I mean, the story about them and NASA. Have you heard this story about the last action hero and NASA?
No.
They
No.
paid $20 million to put last action hero Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on the side of a NASA rocket. And then the rocket couldn't take off because of technical problems. And so they had to push it back to after the movie came out. And then they just decided to scrap it entirely. So it's like the perfect metaphor for this movie. It's like this great idea that just can't get off the ground. It's so perfect. The movie, like, it has some inspired moments. Like, I do like a couple of the jokes, I guess, where, like, there's one where Austin O'Brien has just gone through the screen and he's in the backseat of Schwarzenegger's car and he's in the middle of a car chase, gun battle, and Schwarzenegger pauses to change the mini disc of the rock song that's playing. Because there's always a rock song playing during his action scene. So and he's providing his own soundtrack. That is the kind of joke that demonstrates some of the potential that they had here, but it never works. As much as I want this movie to be good, as much as I try to will this movie into being good, it's just not.
I'd never seen it until this weekend.
Wow.
And you're 100% right. You know, when you said he's playing Mel Gibson, you know, you had your main guys, Mel Gibson, Bruce Willis, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and then you had your side guys like Van Damme and Seagal. If they would have changed the script to match the Schwarzenegger style action here, it would have worked, I think, way better. And I mean, how hard could it have been? Or just cast Mel Gibson? And I don't know. It just that's where I think it hurts the most, other than the too many cooks in the kitchen thing. Is just if you gotta be more meta with it. Maybe they're too afraid to do that back then. I don't know. There was a little bit of that in this, but.
That was the intention. And then Schwarzenegger got cast, and Schwarzenegger, to his credit, he was very professional. Everybody loved working with him on this movie, and he was very as much adaptable as possible. But at the same time, he really wanted to be cool in the movie and not be the subject of the joke, and that's why it doesn't quite work. He has to be a little bit more of a fool. He has to be more willing to take the L a couple times in this movie, and Schwarzenegger is so obsessed with being cool and making the character seem cool, and McTiernan the same way, that they lose that element of it that could have been, broader and funnier.
Right. I mean, Stallone as the Terminator is only so funny,
Yeah. And
that's what I think. He was willing to make fun of his friends, but
right?
Not so much himself.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack, for a rock fan, I had that. I knew all those songs, but I don't remember.
Megadeth, Def Leppard,
everybody, Anthrax, Alice in Chains, Aerosmith, everybody was on it. And I didn't hear half the songs in the movie or even in the credits.
Yeah,
despite him changing the disc mid chase scene. Did they play the Def Leppard song? Because that was a huge hit out of this movie.
I thought it was over the credits, I believe.
Oh, not the initial credits.
No, like the secondary song of the credits.
Christ. That was a huge hit from this movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was fun enough, but it was more because I could kind of, if I knew what you knew, it'd probably be even better. But it was kind of fun to laugh at a little bit.
Jeff, have you seen it?
I have not. I was going to watch it this weekend and just got away from me.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't have Netflix.
Oh.
What'd you do? Share a password?
No, I canceled Netflix a long time ago, like months and months ago. They just weren't. There wasn't enough that I couldn't stream elsewhere. So.
I'm still watching The Last Dance over and over again at night when I go to bed. And then ESPN makes it even better when like Scottie Pippen says shitty stuff. It's all fun. Anyway, what do we got next week? I forgot to write it down.
So far, in terms of the theatrical releases, the only two that are on the theatrical release list are the new Jennifer Lawrence comedy and No Hard Feelings, and Asteroid City.
So Past Lives or God is a Bullet, are we going to get either of those? Or
Not sure. Don't know. They're not currently
I-
on the release list for our local theater.
Okay.
I looked up. I looked up God as a Bullet, and oh my God, it has such a great cast, and it also has what's her face from Mad Men. Um, but yeah, I wish that was coming here.
Don't know that it's not. They won't make. They don't tend to make the official. Our theater doesn't tend to make their schedule official until Tuesday night. So that'd be the time to check. But as of right now, it's not on there.
1993, we got Dennis the Menace, House of Cards, Sleepless in Seattle. What's love got to do with it? What are you watching for the show?
Sleepless in Seattle, and we had some scheduling issues this week, so it'll be a double episode with Last Action Hero and Sleepless in Seattle. And of course, we got the Jurassic Park episode still to come out, which
It'll be out Thursday
sure-
morning.
Amy and MJ, I'm sure, will be losing our fans as quickly as possible with their takes on Jurassic Park.
Really?
Yeah.
Do we have a classic in mind for next week?
I don't.
Okay. We'll add one later then.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with something. Only people I knew would make lists
I know.
of those and send them to me.
I just haven't emailed you a goddamn list yet, Sean.
You heard us both complaining about our jobs before we started.
Yeah.
We can't all work for... No, I'm not going to say it. Without your permission, I'm not going to... Okay. Share. I'm assuming you guys are up for Flick Chart.
Sure.
Wherever that is at. Here we go. Do we want to run Batman through the gauntlet?
We've ever done it.
Yeah.
Not that one.
When I tell you the amount of times I drew Batman in the summer of '89,
I drew the logo a lot. And it was never symmetrical. All right. Batman the Gray.
Batman.
Batman.
Yes. Batman the Boston Strangler.
Batman.
Yep.
Agreed. Batman Bowling for Columbine.
Batman.
Yeah, Batman.
Agreed. Batman Insomnia.
Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Batman Sideways.
Batman.
It's hard for me. I really like Sideways a lot. Batman.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Sideways a lot, but we never fight for it to be a classic. So, Batman Rocky 3.
Batman.
Batman. Sorry, Bob.
No, it's okay. If it was Rocky, I'd be like, fuck you. But Batman A Star Is Born.
Batman.
Batman.
I'll go with Star Is Born on that one. Batman Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Eternal Sunshine.
Batman.
God damn it. As of right now, it's Batman. If I watch Eternal Sunshine today, it would be Eternal Sunshine, I'm sure. Batman Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Ooh. As far as cultural for me, I'm going to say Batman. Although it's the toughest one we've come up yet.
It's Everything Everywhere for me by a fairly big margin. And I like Batman a lot. Batman Hereditary.
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 Yeah. Batman High Fidelity.
High Fidelity.
Batman.
I'll go Batman on that one. Number 8 between Hereditary and High Fidelity. All right. Anything else you want to run through the gauntlet, or just rank random movies, or end the show altogether?
Flash. The Blackening. It's good. It's just not. Yeah.
Safety Not Guaranteed, The Dark Crystal.
Safety Not Guaranteed.
Yep.
I love that movie. Chinatown, Rosemary's Baby.
Chinatown.
Rosemary's Baby.
I go Chinatown. The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, District 9.
District 9.
Feel free. I don't care.
District 9. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, Muppets from Space.
Muppets from Space.
Yeah.
I agree. But it is
I take it you're not going to Trek Fest next weekend, Sean.
Is that what it
I don't
is?
hate Star Trek. I just don't like the original cast Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
Rango, the creepy fucking kid in apartment.
Never heard of that one.
Never heard of that.
No.
Rango, oh, come on.
Really?
Rango Fury.
Rango.
Agreed. How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, The Abandoned.
I'm not sure what the
Never heard
abandoned
of the
What
abandoned
the
is.
fuck? Why are you doing this flip chart?
because we've done too many movies. They're just
Under the Skin, How to Train Your Dragon 2019.
under the skin.
Under the Skin.
Absolutely. Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, A River Runs Through It.
Mission Impossible
When does the next Mission Impossible come out?
this summer.
Every other year.
Thank you, Sean. Could you vague that up for me a little bit?
Coming out a couple of weeks or something.
Okay. I've never seen any of them because I hate Tom Cruise so much, but I'm going to take one for the team.
Do it. They're great.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't really care. Do you like it? Do you have a preference, Jeff? Or I know you haven't seen Mission Impossible, but just let Sean have
I
it.
liked The River Runs Through It. Craig Sheffer was pretty hot in it, but I've not, like I said, I've never seen any of the
It's a snooze.
Mission Impossible movies.
It's a snooze.
I don't.
Well, in that case,
I really don't care. You can pick Mission Impossible. I don't.
I haven't seen either one, so. Meet the Robinsons, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
Frankenstein.
Meet the Robinsons.
God damn it. I'll go Frankenstein. Friends with Benefits, Ali.
They're about the same bland, forgettable thing for me. So
Friends with Benefits because I like Mila Kunis better than Will Smith.
Agreed. Top Secret, The Business of Strangers.
man, that's
I've
tough.
never heard of The Business of Strangers.
Business of
Neither have I.
Strangers is Stockard Channing and Julia Stiles. It's a pretty terrific drama that I would highly recommend.
Okay, I've never seen it, but I've heard of it now that you say that.
I would say Top Secret. Yeah, I would watch Top Secret anytime. Val Kilmer's hilarious in that fucking movie.
The Savage Bees, Elysium.
I've never heard of Savage Bees, but I want to see it now based off that poster.
Yep.
Aftermath, Elysium.
Not sure what Aftermath is.
39 Steps.
The 39 Steps all the way.
Yep.
Phenomenal movie.
Good book, too.
Rudy, Eternal Sunshine.
Eternal Sunshine.
Eternal Sunshine.
It's very easy.
We're the only podcast that hates Rudy.
It's not that I hate Rudy. I hate everybody that likes Rudy. When Harry Met Sally, The Last Airbender.
When Harry Met Sally.
Yep.
And I don't hate the people. I hate that they like it so much. That. Ice Age 2, Cube.
Cube. Ice Age movies are insufferable.
Beverly Hills Cop, The Good Look of a Seuss.
Not seen that one. One of the first movies ever made, apparently.
Beverly Hills Cop, Safety Not Guaranteed.
Safety
I know.
Not Guaranteed. I like
Controversial.
Beverly Hills Cop, though.
For some, but safety not guarantee.
Well, no one's seen it. That's why it's controversial. I think if you watch it, it's pretty amazing. Lucy Jr.
Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy.
Yeah. Little Nicky, The Jungle Book 2016.
Jungle Book. I don't like the Jungle Book, so that tells you.
Oh, I'm going to pick Little Nicky just to piss Sean off. I've never seen The Jungle Book. I've seen the original. I haven't seen that.
I'll go with the Jungle
You
Book.
underestimate how much I care.
Dog Day Afternoon, The Natural.
Dog Day Afternoon.
Dog Day Afternoon.
I hate The Natural, too. Idiocracy, Serpico.
I don't know.
I'm going to Serpico. I think Idiocracy
Yeah.
is a better idea than it is a movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's recency bias for me because I just listened to Sidney Lumet's book. It's free on Audible, by the way.
17 again, The Ringer.
Fishing with Gandhi.
Yeah.
Every time you say that, the show automatically ends, so okay. All right, that is our show. We should see if the Savage Bees is available since we're looking for a classic. I'm just kidding. Anyway, if you think of something, let me know. I'll try to get you a list someday.
All right.
All right. See you guys later.
Yep.
See ya.
Bye.